Hey guys, Saeed here. Welcome to Psychology of Spirituality. I included this graph in last week's video from the Pew Research Center. A huge mistake on my part, and it's actually one of the main reasons I'm creating this video, and that's to discuss the construct of religion and how to appropriately measure it and the context, the cultural context of understanding spirituality. One of the main things that I do as a PhD student is try to understand religiosity through an empirical lens. That is, how do we measure this abstract, multidimensional construct, religion? What does that mean? And I included this book in previous videos, Before Religion, which talks about the cultural construct of that term, and that term not being found in most indigenous non-Western societies, right? There isn't this clear-cut delineation or separation between religion and other facets of a society like there is in Western culture, right? To really get the heart of what I mean, I'm showing this film clip right here and we can discuss it afterwards.
I have labored in this country for 15 years. I know it better than you. Our religion does not take root in this country.
Because the roots have been torn up.
No. Because this country is a swamp. Nothing grows here. Plant a sapling here and the roots rot.
There was a time when Christianity here grew and flourished.
When?
When? In your time, Father. In your time, before you became like...
Like who? Like them? Rodriguez, please listen. The Japanese only believe in their distortion of our gospel, so they did not believe at all. They never believed.
How can you say that? From the time of St. Francis Xavier, through your own time, there were hundreds of thousands of converts here.
Converts?
Converts, yes!
Francis Xavier came here to teach the Japanese about the Son of God, but first he had to ask how to refer to God. Dainichi, he was told. And shall I show you their Dainichi? Behold, there is the Son of God, God's only begotten Son.
So the film follows Jesuit priests traveling into Japan during the Tokugawa shogunate, where there was a huge suppression of Christianity from the emperor. They wanted to really consolidate and centralize the different nation states of Japan during that time. There's a great Netflix series that I'm watching also that goes deeper into that. So as you can see, Liam Neeson is trying to get Andrew Garfield to understand that although he may believe that the Japanese people are converting into Christians, their worldview, their schema, their understanding of spirituality, metaphysics, is so inextricably linked to the Japanese context that the term Christianity may as well not be applied, right? And this goes directly into a number of peer-reviewed articles that I want to discuss, and that encompasses what I'm talking about here, the construct validity of religion and spirituality. How do we measure this?
The Japanese cannot think of an existence beyond the realm of nature. For them, nothing transcends the human.
No.
They can't conceive of our idea of the Christian God.
You're wrong. You're wrong. They worship God. God, our Lord. They praise the name of Deus.
That's just another word for a God they never knew.
I saw men die.
I did too.
For Deus, on fire with their faith.
Your martyrs may have been on fire, Father, but it was not with the Christian faith.
I saw them die. I saw them die. They did not die for nothing.
Indeed not. They're dying for you, Rodriguez.
Our first article by Yang goes into some of the problems from a theoretical level in trying to measure religion and spirituality in an Eastern Asian context. So he reports, there's still a huge prevalence of folk religions, or maybe we can call it animism, in the Japanese context and also in other Eastern Asian contexts. The tools that we have to measure religiosity have been created in the Judeo-Christian context, right? Do you participate in a religious worship service weekly? Do you believe in a codified text, right? Do you believe in the importance of religion to your central values and beliefs, right? This article goes into how those understandings of religion may not fit within a Japanese context. So those clear-cut delineations, as we understand it with Judaism, Christianity, Islam, maybe even Hinduism you can put in there, although on my website I speak about the syncretic movement in South Asia, which blends lots of Islamic ideologies with Hindu ideologies, most notably in the Sant movement. That article is on my website in the description below. But there's a much more coalescing of cultural spiritual ideologies in the Eastern Asian context. And we can see this in a number of different film clips. I'm a huge fan of Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli films, which go into this animism, right? This belief that there are spirits dormant in objects, places, situations, all around us. So number one, this is a language issue, right? The term religion, there isn't any sort of parallel cross definition where a person in another context can easily digest this word as we can, right? The term religion. Even in an Islamic context, right? There isn't any sort of neat one-to-one translation of that term, right? We have deen, but deen is a lot more all-encompassing than the term religion is. That graph that I included in the previous video on why does Hollywood fail to accurately portray religion indicated that less than 10% of Japanese people identify themselves as Japanese. Lots of counter studies have been conducted by Japanese psychologists and social scientists to combat that, and they found that if you broaden the term religion to encompass rituals and ideologies and beliefs that may not be so readily understood in the Western context, most Japanese people endorse themselves to be religious, or maybe we should say spiritual at least. And this journal article, it's more of a just a statistical overlay of these different trends, is also in the description below. So as we can see, the trend line has remained pretty consistent with religious membership and endorsing at least some religious values. The main one being, as we see in the Tanaka article, although many, even elders, right, and people who are older tend to self-report being much more highly religious. So this University of Japan longitudinal study, which had about 5,000 Japanese elderly patients, found that only 3.6% endorsed having any sort of affiliation with a religious organization, right? Which that single item index has been the main tool of measurement in all of the social sciences for religion, which is a huge problem, right? And it's something that I spoke about extensively in my book chapter on broadening the operationalization of Islamic psychology and the measurement tools. That book chapter is free and available for you to read on my website in the description below. But if you broaden it, as I said, right, especially as it relates to visiting grave sites and paying allegiance to ancestors, right? And we can see that in this clip from Mulan right here.
Watch over Mulan.
Although visiting graves, right, something that we see in a host of Western media, may not itself be such an obviously evident religious ritual, in the Japanese context it is, right? And this article, I'm including this section right here, which goes more into the context of why reverence for ancestors has such a deep place within the Japanese context, right? It's not something that you really find in a Western context, right? There isn't this deep reverence for warding off spirits because our ancestors, our descendants, are watching over us, right? You really don't find that much at all in a secular Western context. Here's a great clip from Spirited Away, which includes some of those indigenous folklore beliefs.
Miyazaki was encouraging the younger generation to look back at Japan's pre-capitalist, more spiritually inclined history. At the very start of the film, when Chihiro notices spirit shrines,
"What are those stones? They look like little houses."
They're shrines. Some people think little spirits live there.
Her mother's reaction implies that she and her husband embody a new materialistic Japan that's abandoned the country's more spiritual past.
You've got that.
And Miyazaki has spoke about the fact that his inspiration for creating Spirited Away came from his belief that the younger generation in Japan were straying too far away from their indigenous beliefs, right? Grave visiting, what we would call ziyarat, pilgrimage, is something that is a huge staple in Shia Islam also, right? Visiting our ancestors, visiting the shrines of our imams is one of the core foundation of our beliefs, right? And here are numerous clips in Najaf, Mashhad, Damascus, right? All of our different shrines. And again, this channel, I don't explicitly go into religion. There are many, many better channels. Let's talk about religion for breakfast, which go more into the theology, right? But I always make it a point when I can, as I did in this video, where I drew parallels between a hadith with Imam Ali and an old Japanese story, which I found in Joseph Campbell's PBS series. We should always draw attention and be conscientious of the parallels, the similarities that we have with other beliefs, right? Reverence for one's ancestors, visiting the graves, is the most often cited religious spiritual ritual by all Japanese people, more than 85%, right? That's something that we share in common with them, right? It's a major point of commonality. All of those resources are on my website, as well as those peer-reviewed articles, as well as this video right here, where I go much more into the construct validity, the way that religiosity is measured in the social sciences, because that's what I did for my thesis, right? So for those of you who are more interested in assessment and measurement, you can watch that video. I hope this video gave you a bit more context. It came about after someone emailed me highlighting that graph. And I think that's very important to further the conversation on understanding one another's beliefs and progressing the field of science, right? Especially the psychology of religion and spirituality, which has a lot more broadening to do and integrating diverse worldviews, voices, indigenous philosophies. So thank you all so much. As always, a bunch of resources in the description for you all. Hope to see you on the next episode, and I guess I should say domo arigato. Thank you all. Peace be upon you.